There we are. That one's rolling. Okay, guys, let's get Instagram going. And then we're going to go here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, there we are. Perfect. Let's check here too. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Game on. We got it going on. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Well, we think we do. And we're just going to go with that distinct possibility. Hi, everybody. This is a long overdue live Q&A session. When we first started the PX Docs platform, you think I love to talk a lot into a microphone and share hope, answers, and help with your families. I really love to type. So we wrote tons of articles for a couple years. Then we turned on Facebook and Instagram. And then, going on 3 years ago, we launched the Experience Miracles podcast. And every Friday on the podcast, we release a Q&A episode. So it's me answering one of your guys' questions. And when I first started doing it, I would do all those Q&A lives here on Instagram and Facebook and everything else and be a little more off the cuff. And then the more we grew up into the podcast world and I took all the fully scientific researched, outlined, put together articles, turned them into podcasts, I think in a good way, a lot of my Q&A episodes are so formal now. I create an outline, I go through a lot of stuff, and I love that. I'm not going to stop doing that, but it has taken me away from doing more of these true lives in the moment Q&As. The other reason I haven't been on here for a few months, rocking lives, is in the winter months, I do a lot more traveling during Q1 of each year. I very intentionally take a lot more trips, get on airplanes, go to places, do live speaking, teaching events, because if you know us at all, I'm a family man first, live on a farm, 4 kids. Well, in northern Illinois, where I live in the winter, not a lot going on. We do love sledding and snowmobiling and all that, but I choose to travel and speak more in the cold months because I'm not missing out on too much with the kids and family. And now in the coming spring to summer months, I won't travel so much because I will be spending even more time with the kiddos here on the farm. And that actually allows me more time to do Instagram lives. So as you're joining us here, absolutely positively drop your questions, your challenges, share wins and celebrations in the chat. I have many months actually of questions. Every week we put out here on Instagram and Facebook, we ask for your guys' questions. So I've got about 3, maybe 4 or 5 I'll cover here today on one massive live stream. We're just telethon time. I actually don't even really know what a telethon is. I think that's more of a fundraiser than a Q&A thing. And I'll also obviously take some live. So if you got time here, moms and dads, today, and you want to just nerd out with me for a long period of time through these questions I've got over here on my laptop, and then questions you want to put into the chat, I will try and find them and answer them before we turn off this live. Since it's been many months since I've done one, I'm going all out here today. Got some water, had a fresh coffee, ready to rock and roll. If I miss your question, you put it in the live stream chat as we're going here, especially early, because by the time I get to the ones in there, I'm going to go through a few that are pre-sent. Certainly send it in via DM, and we will go through the comments, we will go through the DMs, and I will continue to do those Friday Q&A episodes and lives like this. So I'll just make sure myself and the team that I don't miss out on these. Okay, you ready? Let's go. So question came in: stem cell therapy for children on the autism spectrum. What do you think? Is the question coming from a parent. And what I want to do with this very first one is, this actually won't be a full answer going into a full podcast episode, because my first response to stem cell therapy for autism, let me actually expand upon the question if I can for a minute. Let's just talk about stem cells for autism, for hypoxic brain injuries, for seizures. So our expertise is nervous system, neurodevelopmental nervous system disorders. So that encompasses what we call the perfect storm, which is a multifactorial early life onset in a specific sequence of stressors. There's emotional stressors, physical stressors, and then chemical toxic stressors that trigger this neurostorm within our kids' brains and bodies. And depending upon the type of neurophysiological dysfunction, it'll kick out autism, ADHD, sensory, seizures. And so in today's world, there is a lot of parents awesomely looking at a lot of different solutions and interventions that are out there that hopefully can help the body heal from the inside out. So my first response to the stem cell question is, on the surface, I am extremely intrigued, very excited, and also the jury is still very out, okay? So let me repeat my 30,000 foot answer. Very intrigued scientifically, and I'm even going to use the word, and then I'll explain it. Philosophically, I'm very intrigued and excited by the potential of stem cell therapy. I wouldn't be surprised if in 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, I'm coming back on here and saying, hey, after we get nervous system stability, which I'll also talk about within this answer, I think things like stem cells can really help our kids heal. I'm not going to give a strong green light at all. In fact, I'm going to give a strong yellow light because of many things I'll continue to answer here, okay? So number one, on the surface, let me stay 30,000 foot view. It's hard for me not to get granular right out of the gates. Very nerdy guy here. Big picture, I love the concept, but then also big picture, I don't send any kids ever at any stage of care out for stem cells yet, because we've seen quite a few cases where either the outcome didn't move the needle, the kiddo didn't have a response, or they had a negative response. Now, you got to stay with me all the way. If you totally want to know all about stem cells, stay with me as I walk all the way through this. So I don't have any, now let me state some very important things. I don't use any stem cell therapy of any kind in my clinic. I've got no real life, practical, clinically based evidence about it. Evidence-based care, whether it's chiropractic, stem cells, functional, or even medicine, you can't just rely on research that's out there. Everybody always wants to say, where's the research? Well, you're only asking for one bit of really great clinical decision or really great parent-making decision. Research is awesome. We love meta-analysis, randomized clinical trials. I love case studies. If somebody says case studies don't matter, well then they're a drone, they're AI, they're Grok. I mean, tell the mom and dad of said case study who had a healing transformative miracle story that case doesn't matter. So case studies are scientific, randomized clinical trials are scientific, and everything in between is scientific. So I have not done a deep dive onto stem cells. I want that to be very clear. And I do not use them in my clinic. Anytime we put for any intervention we put forth in our clinic, or very likely if it's not chiropractic, we're not going to do it in our clinic, but we will seek out I would use the word aggressively, other providers who are best in the world, and then we will work in collaboration on a specific sequence. I have not done that with stem cells either, even though I've heard a few presentations from an incredible doc in Arizona. I'm connecting with docs in San Diego and Tijuana to learn more. I'm in the learn more phase about stem cells, but I'm not aggressively pursuing information about it right now for our patients, for our clinic, or for our PX Docs network, because all of our clinical decision is first based upon clinical observation. See, we're not researchers, we're practitioners. We're literally in clinic every day working with families who are not only doing what we do, neurologically focused chiropractic care with us. Obviously, we're watching those results closest because that's what God called us to do, but we're strongly connected with the top practitioners of every expertise out there. So I'm really picking their brain. I'm really reviewing their case logs. I'm really looking at their research. I'm really sitting on panels with them. I'm texting, calling, phone call, just chats with other nerds and experts all over the world. And the more parents come into me and say, hey, we did stem cells, and I've got a few responses from parents who have seen great change. So let me back up and then I'm gonna come right into this. This is an important part. So when it comes to any intervention possible, here's the real simple decision-making tree. You've got to run through things as a parent, and here's what we run through as a practitioner who says, A, I'm going to do this, or B, if I'm not going to do it, I'm going to recommend it. Because even if we don't do it in our clinic, if I'm saying to patients, hey, go do X, Y, or Z, or let me come back, I'll stick to the letters. Let's have you go do A, B, or C. I need to know that intervention inside and out. I need to know that practitioner inside and out. I need to know that the time I would pull that card and add that intervention to this kid's case management program, I need to be extremely confident that it's going to work for one reason. The only thing we care about is getting your kids better. Because we care so much about getting your kids better, we have to be really clear in our reputation. We can't just go around and be like, hey, here's my Amazon code for a new supplement my third cousin got me to sell for 10%. Like, that doesn't exist in our world. If you think you vet practitioners, and I love this about you, by the way, you do. If you think you vet practitioners and you vet interventions and you're skeptical, dads out there, love you, homies. I am you. If you think you're skeptical, Dad Steve, you should meet Dad Tony with the skepticism. And it's not even skepticism. I just do my homework and need to understand things so thoroughly and so completely. I just got back from a big meeting and all these other practitioners were there. And when you're a well-known practitioner of any kind, everybody wants you to sell their stuff for them through you. Everybody gets surprised. I'm not mean. I'm not rude. I have tough questions. Somebody comes up to me with the device and they're like, hey, have you heard about this? Yes. And I have 55 questions. If you can go 55 for 55, okay, we can work together. You can help these kids get better. Let me come back to this. 3 potential outcomes. Kids get better. Best outcome ever. Fill in the blank. Stem cells, chiropractic, supplements, diet changes, red light therapy. That's what we're going to cover next. Lasers is my next episode I'll do here. So we're going to talk on stem cells, then we'll go to lasers, okay? And so if we look at this and we say, okay, does this help? If it's a benefit, that's the best thing ever. Now, how do you get the most benefit? Just because something worked for one kid with an autism diagnosis does not mean it'll work for the other kid. Just because stem cells improved this kiddo with a hypoxic brain injury and seizures doesn't mean that it'll work for the next 10 kids. Every kiddo, even with the same diagnosis written onto their paperwork, holy goodness, the neurophysiological system is so vast and so intricate, and how a kid got sick may be similar, but significantly different enough that they're going to respond differently, markedly differently to different interventions. And, I wish what I just said is complex enough, and there's actually more, especially at a different time or sequence. See, the real magic sauce, it's not magic sauce, it's neurophysiology, to get kids better is which interventions work when. W-H-E-N, in what order and what sequence. And so when we look at stem cells or anything else, we have to ask the question, will this help my kid get better? That's outcome potential number 1. Obviously, we're going for that. Outcome number 2 is no change. We did it and we didn't go backwards. We didn't go forwards. We stayed stuck. We didn't see any change, okay? Now, clinically, that's not a negative outcome because it's a no outcome. What about financially, though? What about emotionally? What about flying to a certain place and investing all the costs and disrupting your life to get said intervention? So I am very acutely sensitive to no change, okay? I don't think any of these are in a vacuum because as a parent who's gone through an incredible healing story with my own son and flown to multiple different places with my daughter for one of her health challenges, which she's now both are thriving on the other side, we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in weeks away from our regular life to go get these interventions. So when we keep going through this list of 3 possible outcomes, we're talking about it with this one in regards to stem cells for autism, neurological challenges. There's positive outcomes. We saw positive change. My kid got better. There's no outcomes. But I don't think no outcomes is really kind of no outcomes all on its own. That's just the clinical gradient. But what about the life effect? And then third, things got worse. Their seizures got worse. Their sleep got worse. So currently, as of this live and this podcast, as of this podcast, episode as we do these things, when it comes to stem cells, I've only seen I can list them less than on one hand, of kids, and we see a lot of neurologically complex kids. Very few kids have seen positive benefit from stem cells. This is not thousands of kids. It is thousands of kids, but it's not tens of thousands of kids. Okay, so mathematically, take my observations clinically and my math here with that. I'm not trying to hide anything. This is our observation and how we build it. So we've only seen a few kids see positive results. That doesn't mean in the future we're not going to get it all put together better, make the intervention better, and hang on till I get to the next chapter of this answer, which is sequence. It's all about the sequence. It's all about which kid got which intervention when. That's how you get the most out of it. Second, I've got quite more kids in the second group that went and did stem cells and no change, okay? And I've got a fair amount of kiddos who went out and did stem cells, even more kids who went out and did lasers. The next question is about lasers, and we're going to go down that road. And I have a lot more kids who did lasers and regressed. Seizures got worse, sleep got worse, seizures got worse. Now, again, don't just jump on the live, take these snippets and miss out a whole thing, because it's not only about the intervention and then autism, the intervention and then seizures, the intervention and pandas. It's about which intervention was used at what time, in which sequence, and with which protocol. There's a long kind of drop down tree of questions within the question we have to ask to be able to say, how do we get the most out of it? That's what I want you guys to know is always going to be different about the PX Docs platform and the Experience Miracles podcast. When you send in these awesome questions, I'm probably going to add half a dozen questions to the inside of your question that as a parent, you wouldn't even know to ask. Nor should you. This is not your job. This is our job to do alongside you. Not to tell you what to do or not to do, but to work in partnership and collaboration with you. Informed choice doesn't mean you just read the headlines and you get the 30,000 foot view. You deserve me to be this granular, this thorough into the answering of this question. Because if we just answer yes, no, maybe so, surface level, then that's not going to really help you delineate what's best for your kid. What I love about being a PX Doc myself and the way we've trained all of our PX Docs is we not only know how to do our intervention, neurologically focused chiropractic care, which restores the foundation, and in most cases is the very first thing we need to do for a season to set up better likelihood of success for other things, including stem cells. But we also are very well-read, well-researched, and well-experienced into how do other interventions work, even if we don't do them in our clinic. Many people, like me, have done a lot of these other interventions in our clinic, like primitive reflexes. So I'm not a big fan of that integrative therapy, because if it's done first, that's B, not A. I never did stem cells, never have. I never did lasers, which is the next episode, never have, never will, okay? That doesn't mean that I didn't refer a child out a couple of weeks ago, to go get a deep dive of laser intervention. It doesn't mean that down the road, I might come back to this episode and give you an updated episode on stem cells as one, the intervention gets better, and two, both practitioners doing it and ones like me share with you as parents, hey, it's not about just black and white. It's going to work because your child has autism and stem cells are great for autism. When would you play that card? What would you maybe need to do first to prepare your child's brain, body, and nervous system to receive the stem cell intervention and have the greatest likelihood of arriving in camp number one? Positive outcomes, and not ending up in camp number two, no outcomes or negative outcomes. Hope this is helping, okay? Now, let me come back to why philosophically I'm actually very encouraged about the future of stem cells, and I think it's just so new that we're not doing it at the highest level of intervention just yet, okay? The reason I love the concept of stem cells on the surface, and that's all the further I'm going to take this chunk of this answer. On the surface, stem cells are something within the body that God designed and gave us that are this blank slate. Stem cells and I'm not a stem cell expertise, so I'm not going to give you the greatest explanation of how they work right here. I'm going to give you a NeuroChiro Iowa Farm Kit explanation, so it's easy for all of us to understand. Stem cells are a blank slate within the body where the body could say, hey, I need you to go over here, form into this function and provide this function. So stem cells are different than just pumping in glutathione You know what glutathione is supposed to do. Stem cells are different than just pumping in vitamin C. You know what vitamin C or magnesium. Stem cells are obviously markedly different than pumping in medication. And the medication says, hey, in the lab, we know it does this, so we're going to inject it or ingest it into your kiddo, and we expect it to do this. Stem cells work completely differently. They are something that can go into the body and through, hang on to this right here, through signaling and neurocommunication within what's called the innate or neurointelligence of the brain-body connection, stem cells can be generated and really sent into a specific tissue, organ, glandular system and say, go over here, form up in this way to perform this function. Now, that's why it's so exciting, because a lot of dysfunction exists within the body and the brain for a kiddo with seizures or autism or autoimmune disorders. So we would like to restore function, rebuild function from the inside out, from the ground up, from the foundation for people that are sick. We trust the body's innate wisdom to do what it's designed to do, which is to actually be healthy. But a minute ago, I said in order for these stem cells to do their job with maximum capacity, it's up to signaling. See, here's where it gets weird, but it's not weird at all. It's neurological. There is a master conductor, air traffic controller within the body that controls all chemistry. Neurology controls chemistry. Neurology controls physiology. So what happens is if stem cells, here's my neurophysiological understanding of how stem cells would work great or not work at all, or perhaps do the third option, which is make things more confused within the body. It all depends upon one variable. Is the nervous system hooked up and operating? Is the operating system, the air traffic control, the conductor of physiology doing its job well? If the vagus nerve, the autonomic and central nervous system is disconnected, subluxated, dysregulated, well, that's the signaling. That's the harmonics. That's the air traffic control. So if the nervous system is dysregulated, disconnected, subluxated, we can generate the most rad, awesome, incredible, massive dose of stem cells, get them into the body, get the body generating more of them itself. Some of the devices do that. And what are they going to do? How do they know where to go and what job to perform? They don't. Because if you don't have the nervous system intact, if you don't have neurological signaling, brain-body communication, functioning, at least at a basic healthy level, what we call neurological stability, if that doesn't get rebuilt, restored first with chiropractic adjustments, we can't expect stem cells to work so great. Same as supplements. So right here, in closing with this answer about stem cells, and I would very much venture to say over the next 12 months to 36 months, there will be more experts on stem cells. There will be more interviews on stem cells. And perhaps my tune will continue to change in a forward direction with stem cells as they get better. And again, the most important thing is not the intervention's great or it's not on the surface, for which kid, when in their healing program and the hierarchy of healing. I really think we're going to continue to see progress with this, but stem cells now, the way I'm answering this final part of this question, they are exactly analogous to supplements. Supplements are not a yay good or nay bad, nat simple answer either. Neither is detoxification and biocidin and binders and working on methylation pathways. Those things, detoxification, I've done episodes about it, and neurointegrative therapies, and the next one we're going to do about lasers, they can either be great and helpful or show up too soon when the nervous system is still subluxated, dysregulated, and disconnected, and they may actually make things worse. Now, that's complex. That's confusing. That can be tough on parents. How do you know for your kiddo whether a certain intervention, stem cells, supplements, detoxes, lasers, hyperbaric oxygen, PT, OT speech, heck, even chiropractic, how do you know it's going to be more likely net good or not? Well, you have to measure nervous system function first. So if I go back through, and as answering this one, I said I've had a few kids get better in our clinic, in our experience, and everything we teach and talk about comes not just from reading research and grok, but it comes from real life observation, real life experience. As a very busy, very engaged clinician and parent, we merge all of those: neuroscientific research, clinical observation, and a parent who's lived this life and gone through some incredible healing transformations with our kids. That's what makes our podcast different. I'm not just a researcher, I'm not just a clinician, and I'm not just a parent. I don't even want to use just on any of those three terms because they're all fantastic. Just as a minimizing term. A clinician knows a lot of things we need to know as parents to make the best decisions for our kiddos. A researcher knows a lot of things that we want to know as a parent to make the best decisions for our kiddos. And parents, trust each other. Work with each other, okay? It's all three in aggregate, woven together, that I think help us make the best decisions for our patients. And I pray that I'm being effective and helpful for your family as I weave those three things through this platform and through the podcast. And so when I go back through in stem cells to close this one down, and then we'll move on to the laser question. In stem cells, yes, we've seen a few kids get better. Yes, we've seen even more kids have no response. And yes, when it comes to stem cells, as of today, I've seen more kids have more challenges than in the other two options. I'm such a glasses half full guy. It's hard for me to say verbally out loud what I'm saying there with the third option, okay? Now, why is that? The kiddos who saw the best responses with stem cells did between 1 to 3 years of foundational work first. If you've never heard me talk about this, this will change your life. Foundational work is repairing the nervous system. The nervous system, when subluxated and dysregulated, it will not do well with good interventions because it's so dysregulated that it becomes exhausted. When you take an overloaded, dysregulated, exhausted nervous system and you ask it to do anything, literally anything, even good healing interventions, can make it even more exhausted and overloaded. There's a phrase you've all heard in your lives, too much of a good thing. Well, when the nervous system is really unstable and really dysregulated and really neurologically exhausted, even supplements, diet changes, basic things, let me pull off a diet, certain supplements can make things worse. Certain interventions, like working on primitive reflexes or cranial work or stem cells and lasers too soon, can make things worse. It's just the way healing happens. And so the kiddos that we saw have a positive response to stem cells did between 1 to 3 years of neurologically focused chiropractic care, foundational nutrition, so really healthy, clean eating with basic supplementation, not too much supplementation. So they did foundational nervous system focused chiropractic between 1 to 3 years. They did foundational nutrition and supplementation for 1 to 3 years. And they did foundational movement-based therapies, neuro-focused PT, OT, those sort of things. That's the foundation. I know you only have me verbally, or if you're catching this live, you can see my hands, That's the foundation. You guys, if you're really looking to help your child whose brain and body has been quite injured and quite off track, and they've got an autism or a neurodevelopmental or a PANDAS, those are tough disorders. There's a lot of dysfunction. I can't dance around it. There's a lot of dysfunction within those systems. And so when we look at those sort of things, we need to spend a significant amount of time, probably more time than you want and more time than we even want, because we'd love to go fast if we could. But we often have to go slow first. I live on a farmhouse. When this farmhouse first got remodeled and we moved out here to make it our dream house, it went really slow because we had to rebuild some things with the foundation. The well and the plumbing out to the barn was put in there in the 1950s. We could have just spliced it together and had it break and regress every 6 months. But finally we said, okay, this is going to cost us more, it's going to be slower, but we're going to dig underneath the ground and put in a better foundational system. That's healing. So the kiddos who had the best response from stem cells are the ones who had done a lot of foundational neurology and foundational nutrition and foundational movement-based interventions first, and then layered on stem cells, and they did better with it. The kiddos who had no response, and especially the kiddos who regressed with stem cell interventions, It was one of the first interventions the families did upon leaving conventional medicine. And when we would then catch up and worked on their, and did our insight scans and measured actual nervous system function for that kiddo, we found that their nervous system was really in what's called stage 3 of subluxation and nervous system dysregulation, which those kiddos' nervous systems were completely exhausted and really shut down. And if you have an exhausted shutdown, I'll close with this analogy. Anybody have teenagers? They're tired quite often. And so you only have little bits of moments where you could ask them to, hey, need you to take the garbage out. Need you to go out and do chores. Oliver, my son, is a rock star. He'll kind of help at any time. Sometimes though, I'll be honest, sometimes though he's tired. I'm a miracle man. If he's tired, he's a cross country runner. If he just did a 10-mile run and he takes a bunch of nerd classes, he's a science guy like his dad, and he's had a real long day of school and a real long track practice, and he's really tired. Like he's legitimately tired. He's exhausted. And I ask him to help out a ton, he's going to be grumpy. It's not going to be a fun experience. The results aren't going to be what we want. If I ask him when he's well rested and he's got an open schedule, hey buddy, I need you to come out to the barn and help me clean it out. He comes out. We have a great time. He's happy. So think of that simple analogy with clinical interventions for your kiddo. If their nervous system is exhausted, it's not going to respond well to stem cells and lasers. Okay. That's that one. Now I want to go back, and if you've been with me the whole time, I want to say everything I just said and just have Claude or Chat or whichever AI can swap it out and just go back through and swap out and say lasers, okay? So actually, let me see. I don't know. Maybe I can hear live on this one. Maybe I can just answer this in unison, and it's actually just one episode when we rebuild this thing. What about, so the other question here is, does red light laser along with PX doc therapy, yeah, this is separate. Let's do this one. Okay. So does red light laser along with PX doc therapy, you know what, guys? I can do it this way. I don't want to go too long. So many of you have been on here with me and ask questions. And if I do another full one, I will probably miss these. Okay. Any patterns you see in the adjusting room with babies who are spitting up a ton? Yeah, that's just transition zones. So a constant spitting up. Oh, look at you sneaking in chiro questions in here, buddy. So yes, babies who are constantly spitting up don't just have upper cervical subluxations. They got CT junction subluxations, mid-thoracic subluxations, TL junction subluxations, and sacral subluxations. There's technically 7 if we include the sphenoid in the palate, and then you go all the way down to the tailbone. But there's at least 5 transition zones if we just keep it neurospinal there, Dr. Michelle. And really spitty uppy babies have them all. So you just need a longer care plan to work through all those primary subluxations. So that's one of those for that rockstar mom. We just got to kind of preach a little bit of continued, and it's tough even for us, patience. We're going to rebuild this over time. Faith, what's up, buddy? 15 months into our care plan. Yeah, speech. So my docs yesterday, so let me read the whole question in case others are listening and don't see it. The only thing that isn't coming along is speech. I'm going to insert in there, yet. In your experience, do some kids just not get to that point no matter how good the progress with neurochiro? So, Faith, it's, we got to look at scans, we got to look at age, we got to look at everything. So it's just a son of a gun. Speech is stubborn little sucker. Speech, if I would ever have a one-on-one with speech, I would sit speech down and I'd be like, why? Speech, bedwetting, and seizures, okay? These are the 3, and you're like, bedwetting? It's kind of a rando in your box of 3 most frustrated, symptoms, conditions. Well, I didn't make the nervous system. God did. So these are questions. You know how you guys are doing Q&A with me right here? I got a long list of questions for the big man. I was like, I'm going to roll into heaven, give Jesus a big hug, be like, hey, I hope I did a good job down there, did what you wanted me to do, and served you well. And if you don't mind, I have about 4,000 questions all about the nervous system and healing. So I got a Q&A session with our creator one day because there's so much of this that I'm still figuring out in my career. Anyways, okay. So speech, seizures, bedwetting take the longest. If you just kind of put them all in a box, they take the longest to come online. That does not mean they won't. That does not mean that nervous system, that brain, your rockstar kiddo, Miss Faith, won't come around over time. It means more time, more adjustments, more healing. Just yesterday, Dr. Dylan, we have two Dr. Dylans. We call one Dr. Dylan. He was there first, so he gets to keep his first name. Chiropractors love to go by our first name. We like to be more personable, kind of the medical side of things. And then Dr. K, Dr. Dylan, he was reviewing a case, and this kiddo's been under care 8 months. So they're finishing up their initial restoration plan, and then we're rolling them onto a sensory supportive plan, which I think is probably where your family is now, Faith. And even he, as a practitioner, knowing exactly what we teach, and he would say exactly what I'm saying into this here today, he just looks at me and he goes, man, speech, why does it take so long? Kids' scans are looking great. Every other neurological soft sign is there, but that's the point. So for the case we're reviewing yesterday, the soft signs are looking great. Sleep, digestion, respiration, gross motor planning, way better. Scans, way better. Now that those are all way better, I believe the brain can and will, over time, get to work on speech and communication and verbalization. So actually expressive verbal communication. Now, in the same breath, there are some kiddos where certain windows, certain ages over a certain time, we put forth different prognoses as to how that goes. So there's some other factors into that as well, but we just keep the care plan chugging along. I will always probably be 120%, if not 200%. Optimistic and positive, because I just want to outpoint the rest of the internet, the rest of doctors out there who are like, yeah, well, that's just not going to turn back on, and you just have to live with it. Maybe the neuroscientific answer is somewhere in the middle, so I'll push and pull real hard on this side to make sure we all just keep pushing forward and give that brain and give that nervous system a chance to fully heal. Oh, and then you added this. Look at your emojis in here. But let's celebrate 155 energy score compared to 1,000. Yeah, so there you are. So here's what happens. All of that has to fall in place. It's like, and I'm not a mechanical engineer. Oliver's probably going to be one instead of a chiropractor. I'm married into an engineer family, so I see them build machines, and they're like, this does this, and then that does that. So it's very sequential, I think. And it's like one thing has to happen, then the next thing happens. I suppose coding is like this. Geez, I'm really stepping out on a limb with this stuff. I don't know. And it's like, you got to get this done to get that done to get that done. Now that your kiddo scans are in that place and everything's in a better place, that's next for innate in the brain to work on. And so I think we're in a good place. Oops, there we go. Don't click the wrong button. Bum, 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 bum. Can Cellcore products help with tics with chiro, growth spurts, and wax and wane with illness? They can. So everything, especially Cellcore products, those are some heavy hitters. We are, over the course of this next year, and I've never done this before, but I want to be more helpful to families. We are working really hand in hand with a new supplement company that has not released any of their pediatric products yet, because we're working with them to make sure they work best, okay? Cellcore, 30,000 foot view, hard hitters, heavy punchers. Cellcore, inside every little one of those little capsules for our little Perfect Storm neurosensory kids, bunch of little Mike Tysons in there, okay? Cellcore products hit hard. So you gotta know that they're gonna hit hard, and you need to have neurological stability into the inside scans and into that kiddo's systems before we would pull Cellcore products off the shelf and put them in. Can they help? You bet. Absolutely, positively, they're wonderful, they're incredible at the right stage, as long as the nervous system has slack and stability, okay? So too soon, too punchy. Right time, just right. It might be the most brief answer I've ever given on supplements in my life. And I'm going to start talking like that. Now, we're not going to repurpose these part of it and put it on the podcast, but it's St. Patrick's Day while I'm recording this. Ooh, are you wearing green? I'm not. Never mind. Just realized that. But I think I'll put maybe we'll get a little Irish in here as we go along. All right, perfect. Please come to Argentina. We're trying. We're going here, there, and everywhere. We did Australia. Oh, starts with an A. Not helpful. I know. And then we're going to go to the UK, and then we're going to go to, we're getting there. It's good. And we're getting more intentional about getting docs on planes. We do our seminars here in the States 6 times a year. We certify our docs in Chicago and Atlanta, 2 of the easiest airports in the States to get to. So we need more Argentina docs to come here, study with us. They can come hang out at PwC, see the whole thing, and then we send them home. But we will, as soon as we can, get to South America too. Just got you. I have literally actually do today a full-time block to review your scans, Jess. I have your scans. I have your emails. CSF increases tics and anxiety. I'll answer it briefly and I'll give you a full answer before the day is done, which I'm long overdue. Finally, I do travel again this week, but I just have enough time here today and I needed to catch up on lives and emails and I'm doing it. So CSF, as you open up the channels to CSF, you oxygenate the brain and that generates, actually back to stem cells, that generates growth. Growth is stressful. The other thing that CSF flow does is it increases detoxification of the brain. So certain cases in the anxiety, PANS world, as you get the body better, you have to go through some flare-ups. In that case, the anxiety is like a fever. Let's say we have a kiddo who for 3 years, autism, neurodevelopmental diagnosis, and they never got sick. Got sick, but never got a fever. And we start getting them adjusted. 6, 12 months into care, we got CSF, we got neurological connection going. Everything's actually working better in the body. And now they'll break out into 104, 105. I've had 8-year-olds with 106-degree fevers, and it's actually good. Is it good for that 24, 48, 72 hours? Not fun at all. Got to watch it closely. Got to make sure our functional pediatrician's on board, keeping track of things, keep everything safe. But we need to let the body get better through that storm. There's storming to get to norming. And so when CSF increases, it will detox the brain. CSF brings oxygen, brings nutrients into the brain tissue and the neural tissue, not just the brain, but the spinal cord too. And then it also takes the toxins out. We never knew how easily the brain got filled with toxins until the last 5 to 10 years. We never knew about the glial cells and the lymphocytes and that there's actually lymph within the brain. Well, when I say we, I mean medical neurologists, chiropractors, osteopaths, craniosacral folks, we always knew. We always knew that we had to get the good stuff into the brain, oxygenation, proprioception, and we needed to get the bad out. And that often, in tougher, more chronic cases, that can create a bumpy road to get to the smooth road, okay? Charm Lens, how long should my son continue PX Talks? He started 2 weeks ago and goes 2 days a week with 3 appointments per session. You very likely at the reported findings visit received a full care plan. So there's 2 phases to the care plan. So I can't answer that question because I don't have your kiddo's case history or their scans and their exam findings, but I do teach the docs who probably gave you yours, so I can review that with you and kind of go back through again. It's brand new, so we love to go through this stuff 5 times over intentionally because it's new. It's a new way of doing things. So it's likely that you got a care plan over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, maybe longer. And so it'll have different stages of care as the scans and soft signs and things get better, then frequency or kind of the dosage of the care plan can change. That's the initial restoration plan. And then after that restoration plan, depending on how far the nervous system healing and everything was, then we can put together a wellness plan. It's proactive. Hey, we've come a long ways. We don't stop and kids regress. That's not how chiropractic works. That's how medicine works. Kids continue to progress because we've rebuilt and hardwired a better operating system into the brain-body connection and nervous system. But stress still happens. Life still happens. So how long? Full answer, simple answer, real answer, forever. Don't worry about that though to this point. Only worry about the rest. Get through the restoration plan. Have a little bit of one eye out on the future. I mean, but there's probably things, if you're on that schedule, 6 adjustments a week, that sounds to me like there's some neurological stuff that's really happening with your kiddo that we got to get through, get their nervous system more stable, get it restored, get it rebuilt. Really focus on getting all the way through the restoration plan. Be real religious with those appointments because the dosage of chiropractic has to do with the schedule. And get through that care plan, that initial care plan your doc recommended. Keep asking them about, hey, what's next with wellness? And then also, let me come back to this one to make sure I don't miss it. Charm Lens, send us a DM and ask for the Wellness Care podcast episode. I have an entire episode of the Experience Miracles podcast where I answered that question much more thoroughly than I did there. And we can send that one to you. Okay, Ash, again, why do some kids have less symptoms sometimes when they actually have a fever? Oh, cool question. Less emotional issues, less tics. Is this a good sign that we are healing then? Ooh, you want the full, awesome, nerdy answer. When there's a fever, the immune system is fully engaged. When there's a fever and a pro-inflammatory response, this, hyperthermic, pro-inflammatory bat signal. So fever is the bat signal. Here's how I was taught it by Dr. Marini and Dr. Lauren Palevsky. So I just got to see him last week. These geniuses taught it to me, and then we've kind of added a little bit to it as we've learned more about the vagus nerve. So when there's an initial acute immune response, fever, the fever is essential to the completeness of the immune response and the boost that the nervous system gets from having a fever. It's the coolest thing ever. Our kids got to get sick to be healthy over time. So the fever is the bat signal. So remember Batman, right? There's trouble. What do? They flow that, I don't know, the commissioner, haven't seen one in a while, runs up to the roof, turns on the bat signal, bada bang, bada bam, Batmobile, bat plane, bat whatever. And the Batman comes and he's like, I got this. We're going to make this good. Do you know what the Batman does? Okay, I'm going to run this analogy out. If you haven't seen Batman, Ash, you're going to have to go see Batman today. Okay. So when Batman's done doing his job, all the bad guys are done. They're dead or in jail, okay? So the Batman isn't like, I'm going to come halfway, do the job, and then we'll go back to my cave. The Batman's like, I'm coming. You sent the signal. I'll complete the job. So in this analogy, which I'm fully pregnant on now, so I got to finish this one, the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic system completes the job. The sympathetic nervous system starts an acute immune response. The parasympathetic and vagus nerve, I just recorded a really in-depth episode about this, which will be out in a few weeks, about the vagus nerve, autoimmune conditions, and inflammation. When that fever goes up, shortly after that, and it'll actually remain often for a few days post-fever, the vagus nerve and parasympathetic system surges. So the nervous system is dynamic. If it's a little too sympathetic, what happens is the vagus nerve realizes, the vagus nerve surges, and the way you shut down fever, or the way you shut down inflammation, or the way you shut down the sympathetics is you have to surge the parasympathetics. They work in oscillation like that. And so as the parasympathetic system surges in response to fever to complete the immune response, well, guess what else the parasympathetic system does? Calm, emotional regulation, social emotional maturation. This is why it's so bad, net, I'll just say it. This is why one of the huge, costly, long-term health, neuro and immuno side effects of over-vaccinating our kiddos and over-medicating them. Every time they get a fever, pediatricians tell them to bring it down. We are massively short-circuiting brain development, neurodevelopment. Fever is essential to surge neurodevelopment through the parasympathetic system. It's literally designed to work that way. Most kids, both during fever and after fever, they do better neurologically. Their brain literally gets better. They have more neurodevelopment. So what an upside down world that we've made everybody afraid of fever. Now everything has context, right? An unmitigated fever due to a raging bacterial meningitis infection, yeah, that one needs to be handled medically. But most don't, okay? And if they are stopped, short circuit, if the bat signal's on because there's bad guys all around and we need to get to that and we shut it off too soon, well, we lose the positive benefits of the neuroimmune response, okay? Simply Clean Health. Can PX Docs help with OCD? We can help with neurological dysregulation, subluxation, and dysfunction that can be triggering OCD. So we don't treat, we don't cure, but we do have an entire episode about OCD. I'm going to go back to the laser question. Simply Clean Health. Actually, let me do this too. Look at me being all techie McTeckerson. Taking a screenshot of that. We'll send that to the team afterwards. But also Simply Clean Health, if you're still on with me, if you want to just copy that into a DM and send it to us, we can send you an article and a podcast, already recorded podcast, and give you the full one on that. Dun, dun, dun. Amy Elizabeth, my child is rarely sick, rarely gets a fever, nonverbal, but 2.5 years in with PX Doc has come a long way, is rarely getting sick, always a negative thing. Again, I probably need a little more context from that, but with what I have right here, Amy Elizabeth, yeah, I'd like to see him get sick a little bit. It's likely more time, more adjustments, and also have your PX Doc do this for us. Get a fresh scan. One of the things when kids are under care for a long period of time, we're really militant in our office about continuing to do scans even for our wellness patients because there's so much growth and there's so much healing that can still happen. So one of the best things you could probably do right now is almost pretend as if your kiddo's a new patient, ask your docs for a new set of paperwork, almost like you're kind of pretend like you're starting over, new set of paperwork, new set of scans. Maybe there's already recent ones if they're running scans on the regular too. And then have them put it on the clinical forum. We have that for our PX docs. They can, through a HIPAA protected platform, share your kiddo's case, all the ins and outs, all the paperwork, all the scans. Myself and our doc team, our teaching team can look at it. Sometimes what we might do in a case, wow, great segue. In a case like that, where your kiddo sounds like they went through the whole perfect storm, we may need to, now that their nervous system after 2.5 years of getting adjusted is more stable, we can get more punchy. That might be a case to work with a real advanced, or somebody like Mary Coyle, who's really good with bioregulatory detoxification. Or, depending on what the scan, I need to see the scans before I would make this call one way or another. Or maybe they're ready to really go after some secondary infections. And you could use things like Cellcore, Biocidin, detoxification, or even lasers to drum up some of the trouble that basically is hidden in the body. Now that the nervous system is more stable, we can often get more aggressive in working with other practitioners. So we can help you do that. We've been able to over time. I've been doing this work for 2 decades. So we have more, it's just how it is. And we're disseminating it across our tribe as much and as full, as complete as possible. But we've got more experience working with tough cases, and I have more connections to other providers to be able to do stuff. So a lot of times we can be the connector to our PX doctors to be the connector for you and your family, and you don't have to feel like you're going that alone. So definitely do that. Yes, from Argentina, we have an intensive program. So send us a DM and ask about the intensive program. Yep, we do 3-week intensives up here at our clinic. Other doctors in our work do intensives as well. So send us a DM about that. Okay, drink of water and we'll talk lasers. Okay, if you've been jamming with us this whole time, the way we answered the stem cell question is going to be 80% the same with this question. Does red light laser, along with PX doc therapy, help open up the vagus nerve and get the neurons firing faster in the brain? Now, the reason I did, after reading this one a second time, want to give this its own deep dive is because the very cool extra parts added to the question. Does it open up the vagus nerve, or kind of stimulate and activate the vagus nerve and get the neurons firing faster in the brain? Let me answer this one in a 30,000 foot view, and we'll get a little granular. Number one, before I answer, I got to give you my whatever is a better word than I mean to say, not disclaimer, but we don't use lasers. We have seen so many kids regress from them, and so many kids get no change from them despite the parents spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and only seen a few kids get better with them. And I pay, when I say this is not just pulled out of you know what, we pay close attention, more close than anybody else, because here's what's different about me and our team. We literally don't care what works, just that something or some things does. I don't look at a single intervention with any judgment. I am not bought out by a private equity manufacturer, supplement, laser manufacturing company, by a supplement company. There's no private investors. The entire everything, 100,000 inside PX. We like to, we're a little extra. We like to say 1,000% because we're like 100% doesn't even cut it for that. 1,000% of our clinical judgment that goes into our patients and my answers on this platform and this podcast comes from real life clinical observation. Somebody could come into my clinic and say, hey, over the weekend, I hooked up a I'm going to just throw a total random one. You guys are going to be like, well, this guy's a whack job. I used a L'Oreal. Okay. I have no idea if that's a real beauty product anymore. Guys, I'm bald with a beard and I don't blow dry my beard. So over the weekend, I used a L'Oreal blow dryer and heated up my kid's pinky toe to 102 degrees and they got better. I would research everything. I'd be like, where'd you get the blow dryer? Which store? What device? What wavelength? I don't even, I would just find questions to ask questions to find out if that wild pulled out a literally right field, intervention could help other kids. I only care that your kid gets better. Every answer comes from that. That's our foundation. So when I'm talking stem cells or I'm talking lasers, trust me, I would love to answer, yes, that's great, do it. Yes, that's great, do it. But you guys trust us. And so you have to get the real answers from me, from clinical observation. So we don't use lasers and we don't use neurofeedback. We don't use stem cells and we don't do primitive reflex neurointegrative therapies and visual oculomotor stuff in our clinic because one, we see a lot of kiddos regress or get no change with them if done too soon. So what we do is when we get a lot of kids to neurological stability, if the nervous system doesn't heal completely on its own, which most do, and we need some of these other interventions, we know different providers we trust who do lasers, who do different things. So the kiddo I just sat for deep detoxification, and I knew or kind of thought that lasers would be involved, Dr. Chris Motley. If you have not listened to the Ancient Health podcast, follow him on Instagram, find that podcast too. Legendary. Motley uses those and everything else under the sun. There's nothing that rock star, true called by God, innate, multi-experienced healer won't use to get a kid better. And he's more comfortable than I am at doing a lot of things at once. So this is not a throw the baby out with the bathwater. With lasers though, we don't have them in our clinic. So I don't know the research inside out. I have not sat through the seminars that says this laser does this for these cells, this laser does that for the vagus nerve. I do know this. The vagus nerve is trending. So a lot of devices and a lot of manufacturers and a lot of practitioners are going to say to the marketplace these days, this device does this for the vagus nerve. Now, certain lasers along the red light spectrum, certain cold lasers, they may have research, clinical research that literally proves that it does that. I can't say one way or another. I haven't looked for the research, so I don't know it. So you're not going to get that kind of answer. I won't fake my way into an answer with that. I'll always tell you the truth, okay? What I do know is that we use real life measurements and technology for every kiddo. So we use what's called heart rate variability. Real simple, when HRV scans are tanked, you have low vagal nerve function. When HRV scores improve, they only can improve because you're activating, stimulating, generating vagal nerve responses, okay? So we know whether or not our interventions, or if we're referring a kiddo out for other interventions, we will use pre and post HRVs to see what it's doing to the vagus nerve, to the autonomic nervous system. So we're never guessing, we're just testing. We're never posting on Instagram and saying it does this without real clinical data that we know it does it. So I haven't looked for any data that says for sure whether or not the vagus nerve, red light therapy gets the neurons firing faster in the brain. Do I believe it to be plausible? Heck yes, it fits. There's a lot of research that I've at least skimmed that says, okay, these different lasers of different wavelengths, different color spectrums, do this for brain tissue, do this for vagus nerve. I believe that could be the case. So it comes back to my answer that I give to pretty much every conversation. When, W-H-E-N, is this laser being deployed? If it's one of the first interventions before a child gets foundational, so there's functional neurology, that's all about lasers, primitive reflexes, and it's real fancy, and it's like 17 interventions happening at once. It looks great on a website. It looks great on YouTube and Instagram. It's not great for a brain and a nervous system that is completely already exhausted, overloaded, and that. If you take, again, anybody who's exhausted and you ask them to do 17 things all at once, all 17 individually may be great, but you're going to fry that person further. It's such a simple neurological healing hierarchy concept that it blows my mind that I'm one of the only people out there talking about this. But again, I got to be real with you. And I don't mean to dance off the Dr. Tony show and onto the Joe Rogan, Cairo conspiracy show, but I know too much to be dangerous. Most folks who are saying all of these interventions and all of these devices are really good for you and you need to do them right away for your kiddo all at the same time, there's two things. One, they've never done it any differently. They've never figured out. Many of them are chiropractors who don't adjust. Or you can know how to adjust, but how well? At what skill set? At what depth? Pick a profession. There's different tiers of it, right? Pick a specialty in any environment. Athletics, right? There's folks that play in the NBA and there's people that play pickup league at, their local Catholic school gym. They're all basketball players. But if you really wanted to ask somebody, hey, how do I get best at basketball? You wouldn't pick Rec League Rick to ask that question. Now I got to get an NBA player whose name starts with R. Oh, I don't watch the NBA. Why did I choose a basketball analogy? Goodness gracious. You'd ask an NBA guy, hey, how do I maximize this potential? So when you have a practitioner who does 1,001 things, it tends to be more of a jack of all trades practitioner than a master of one. How do I know that? I spent the first half decade of my career seeking out this jack of all trades path. So I'm not everybody's favorite, even in my own world, because it looks great on Instagram, looks great on YouTube to do more things all at once, including lasers. But when you have tested out the differences clinically, what works best in what order first, then you speak to it in this. It's not as short of an answer. It's not as easy an answer, but it's the real answer that says, hey, there's a sequence to healing. And if lasers show up too early and we're activating and stimulating brain cells and metabolism and different frequencies before there's even brain-body connection, honestly, I'll cut it down to this. If there is still upper cervical subluxation anywhere in the neurospinal system, but the upper cervical brainstem area is far more important than the brain itself. There, I said it. The upper cervical, brainstem, cerebellum, primal brain, foundational, root part of the brain, more important than the prefrontal cortex. Now, in general nerddom and neuro research and brain-based practitioners, I'd be fried for that statement because it would be taken out of context. The prefrontal cortex is the boss. Not really. The prefrontal cortex does what the rest of the brain, midbrain, amygdala, hippocampus, locus coeruleus, all these sort of things, forebrain, back of the brain, cerebellum, and brainstem, and spinal cord, and body. So if you go from the front of the brain, prefrontal cortex, kind of edges, parietal, so those are like the high cortex process. This is where like Daniel Amen and all these other people are like, that's where the problem is. And then they get a little deeper, and you're like, look deeper, look into the midbrain, look into the forebrain, look into the spinal cord, look into the body. That's where subluxation sets up shop. Nobody looks for that. So you can literally activate the brain, but what are you asking it to do? Communicate with the body and the environment. What if the communication portal, literal pathway, superhighway, through the midbrain, through the back of the brain, through the brainstem is injured from birth trauma? What if upper cervical subluxation, misalignment, tension, and interference is there? That's called subluxation. If that's not fixed first, lasers will tick off an already ticked brain. If that's not fixed first, detoxification will tick off an already disconnected brain-gut connection. You can't heal the gut in the absence of a brain-gut connection. The gut does connect to the brain, but the brain connects to the gut first. You can't shut down inflammation without getting the nervous system to be more ready and the vagus nerve online. So any child who still has subluxation anywhere in their neurospinal, and I would actually even add neurocranial system, and then if they still have subluxation, if it's not at least cleared out to a mild to moderate degree, it maybe doesn't need to be gone, but it can't be severe. It can't be stage 2, stage 3 neurological exhaustion. There has to be some level of foundational neurological stability before red light therapy, other lasers come into play. And if we go in the wrong order, we send your kid in the wrong direction. And that just happens all the time in today's world. And how do I know that to be true? One, saw it in my own clinic, not with lasers, not with stem cells. I want to be clear. Didn't do any of those. But I sit down knee to knee with thousands of parents every single year for 18 years in a row now. I go speak at conferences. I talk to other practitioners. I ask the tougher questions and the more detailed and the more granular and the more sequential questions, just like you. It's why the Q&A episodes like we're doing right here and the lives, they're my favorite thing ever, because the questions you have are the questions I had. When I started to get those answers, it opens up other questions. Then I started to figure out the answers to those questions. And then we pay really close attention to what is and what isn't. I'm not duped by Instagram. We use Instagram to help reach other families to transform their lives with the care we do and perhaps the collaboration and the sequencing. So this is where it's tough. Let's say somebody pieced out on this episode right now and they think net, full stop, anti-lasers. Or if they were listening to my one about supplements, net, full stop, anti-supplements, fill in the blank. That's not the case. What our goal would be to do is to get here. And I'll close this one with this. Our goal would be to do foundational nervous system chiropractic work, foundational lifestyle, so the real basic building blocks of nutrition and supplementation. Do the foundations, do the basics. I wish there were better words for that, because when I say foundation and basics, and your kiddo is struggling with brain-based things like seizures and autism and hypoxic brain injury, you want the most advanced, you want the most intricate. We're going to get there, but we got to do the foundations first. So it sounds so basic, but it's everything. It's so essential. And so we do the foundations, we do the basic first. Here's what sucks. That sometimes takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It can take that long to rebuild a really busted up foundation. So we have to wait that long before we add other interventions. So the goal for CARE is to do such a fantastic, really incredible, thorough, complete job with rebuilding the foundation of your child's brain-body connection, get rid of subluxation, restore neurological function, activate the vagus nerve, get rid of the sympathetic storm, reset, repair, rebalance the autonomic and central nervous system. We can track this. We can use technology and other forms of tracking to know that we're actually getting that job done. So we're not guessing. It's not some random assortment of time that every kid gets the same timeline. Each kid gets a different one. They heal on a different timeline. Some are fast responders, some are slow, some are in between. So it takes every kid a different amount of time to cross this neurological line in the sand to neurological stability. When neurological stability is achieved, one of two outcomes, then one of two doors then opens up to you and your family. One, a lot of kids, that's all they needed to heal fully, completely, and experience massive recovery. We have a lot of kids through chiropractic alone and foundational, basic nutrition and lifestyle. Those interventions only have created miraculous, full, thorough, complete recovery for thousands of kids, all on their own. Just as a minimizing word, just that. And then hundreds, if not thousands of kids, once we get them to neurological stability, now we go to our Rolodex, which is an old guy's way of saying, to our other practitioners, to our other experts. We go to Well Rooted here locally and we say, all right, Jess and team, this kid was vaccine injured with mold. Their nervous system is now stable. It's got more slack. So when you go in and start punching into those parasites, punching into those toxins, waking up that liver, rebuilding that gut, we're not going to have so much blowback. They're ready for it. Go after it. We'll ride alongside you with continued care to make sure that we get the most positive benefit with a minimum amount of side effects. That would be a detoxification. We do the same with lasers. We do the same with stem cells. If a kiddo and a family comes to me and says, we're doing lasers, I need you to get us ready to get the most out of it, I know how to do that. If a family comes to me and says, we're going to Mexico and we're going to do stem cells, the moment you say my child's ready to do it, we'll put a plan together ready to do that. If a family comes to me and says, I know my child had an absolute overload of viruses, absolute parasites, mold, and vaccine adjuvants, and they've got toxic burden all over their body, and I need you and your crew to get their nervous system ready for us to go in there, pull those out, and get that out of there. We'll build a plan that gets you ready for that. So my job answering these questions on this platform and this podcast is really freaking hard, okay? And I freaking love it. It's not the easiest. Yes, this works. Everybody do it. If you have a practitioner of any intervention or kind that says this works for everyone, do you know that the same goes the other direction? You know how many cases we have? I don't have a number. You know how many cases we run into where our healing progression hits kind of this glass ceiling because they need to be detoxed after that? They need to do PT. They need to add in speech. We need to add in myofascial therapy. We need to add in something. It works in all directions. The sequence and putting multiple practitioners and interventions onto your child's healing team, but having somebody who can quarterback it. Having somebody who can have the headset on, has the experience, has the neurophysiological complete and thorough understanding, and doesn't care about anything other than it works. That's who you need on your team. We're training our PX docs to be that. World-class adjusters. So if a chiropractor doesn't adjust, it means they're not good at it. That's why they start selling all these other things, okay? Or they got bought out by a laser company, or they got bought out by a supplement company. Do a little digging. Find out if they got bought by private equity. Many of them did. Hate to be the bearer of, again, that's where I feel like I was joking, like now we're on Joe Rogan, but you know, you can find out. It is. And so that's why their Instagram is all about, hey, how come this chiropractor doesn't adjust? That's why. So you go into those things, you can sort that out, and now we can figure all this out together to get our kiddos the best care in a complete package. And that package may not be chiropractic only, okay? I'll tell you that on the other side of by the way, anybody been following us for a long time? Notice I got a new rad podcast studio out here at the farm, okay? Shout out to Mrs. Ebel, who's, I'm just the get stuff done. She's the designer. Well, actually, she's going to be all salty with me because we haven't folded. She's been really busy, and she wants cooler things on the shelf. But anyways, so on the other side of the wall, that's what made me think of that. And then I got all excited because I love my new podcast studio here and video studio. On a podcast, you're like, I don't see anything, dude. It's a podcast. So you're like, this guy went from real smart to real dumb right quick. On the other side of that wall is an infrared red light sunlight and sauna. Shout out Sunlight. Use my code don't have one for saving nothing. That's not how we do anything. So, anyways, so we have a sunlight sauna over there. Okay. In the room over there is a former guest bedroom turned into a gym. It's a yoga studio, got a little Pilates action in there, got treadmill, got Stairmaster. In my garage is a Rogue squat rack. So chiropractors ourselves, for our kids, you walk into the house and you're going to see us a whole cabinet full of supplements, vitamins, homeopathics. You walk into any room, you're going to see a diffuser. We use a multimodal set of interventions, but always and forever and only on top of a stable nervous system first. Okay? Thank you for letting me answer that one neurophysiologically / tangentially, rantally. I am known to do that. And the more I scroll Instagram and I'm like, just adjust that kiddo and put the laser away until they're ready for it. Because I have so many parents. I've been at conferences. I spoke at Documenting Hope. Shout out Beth and that amazing crew there. Oh, hey, early heads up. In November, the week before Thanksgiving, join us in Orlando. There's going to be a live parent conference. Guys, if you don't follow Documenting Hope, go to their Instagram, find them too. I'll be speaking there. We're going to do some stuff with them, extra special this year. But anyways, last time I spoke down there 2 years ago, you guys, after my presentation, I didn't make it up to my hotel room for 6 or 8 hours. I won't do 6, 7. Because every parent had, like 80% of those parents had this story. Hey, we went and did this intervention in New York or Texas or Mexico. And my question was, okay, awesome. How'd it go? Not good. Their seizures got worse. Their sleep got worse. Their sensory got worse. So over the last 2 years, since meeting all of you parents and you observing, not every case, none of this stuff is ever really an absolute. Chiropractic's not absolute. I wish we could bat it. I won't rest until we bat 1,000. Getting nervous systems better. But the truth is, I'm so passionate and loud and vocal about this topic, no matter where somebody asks me about it. Because it's just what you guys are doing. This is a parent-based podcast platform. These answers aren't for us. These answers definitely, ask my accountant, not for investors. Doesn't matter at all. But we literally have been self-funding this mission and this platform. And our CFO and our accountant is like, it's not working. Yeah, it is. It's not working on their spreadsheets, but that's not what God called us to do. It's working to transform the lives of miracles. So of hundreds, millions of kids. This podcast is for you. It's a parent-based answer always. Okay. All right. Let me hit these last couple ones in here. Amy, thank you. Fine. Good. Cause science can be boring. So I'm glad that I'm fun and a little crazy. You ever been on one of those science podcasts? I know you parents have. You've been to those presentations. You know it's going to be boring when the practitioner, I just got called. They're wearing a suit. I had to in Washington, D.C. Real awkward, fat guy in a little coat. But anyways, and then they roll up to the little podium lectern thing, and then they don't move. And they're just clicking, not me. I move. I keep it entertaining. All right. Fancy. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you. Faith, PX Talks, best thing. I love you, Faith. Oh, so cool. Haley M. Cummins coming from Colorado, R-A-D capitalized, like all you Patagonia loving, Subaru driving Colorado Owens have, Dr. Jonah and Allie. You have the two greatest humans and my niece Goldie. you are under the care of Jonah and Allie, your life is going, I'm calling my shot. Your life is going to be thriving. World-class adjustments, greatest education, coolest office there. I believe there's a birth center and a doula, and then Pickle House. I actually even know the people that own Pickle House. Pretty rad place there in that area. Cannot wait to come and visit. We're coming out this spring or summer. So, Hallie, maybe I'll get to meet you. I'm bringing Goldie's my niece, our niece. We not by relatives, but they mean the world to me. So cool that you're on here and you're seeing them. Those are literally my favorite. Don't tell my children, but those are my favorite people in the world. Okay, just kidding. They're my kids are, and then they're like right there. Alyssa Med, what is that neurological line? It's all based upon the insight scans. So your PX. Well, no, it's not. Table side checks, soft science, insight scans. There's a whole algorithm that goes to that neurological line, and your docs are trained on it, and it's very clinical and it's very thorough, and it's not the easiest to get there. And it's not the easiest to stay there, but when you do, let's go. That's where the magic neurological healing happens, okay? So Alyssa, if you're under the care of a PX doc, please ask them to draw that out for you. And then also send us a message right now, Alyssa Med, if you're still with me. Ask for the Neuro Stability podcast episode. I did a whole podcast episode where it's hard because a lot of this is visual, but I did my best on that episode where I talked about what does it take to get to neurological stability? What is that line? And got it really, really detailed into that. That's a great question. I want you to have the whole answer. We have an article and we have a podcast. I'm going to screenshot that one too so we don't miss you, Alyssa, just in case you jumped off. We will follow up with you. We're a little bit go-getters when it comes to with neurological chiropractic care, to be specific. Yep. And then sometimes there's some foundational things to help. OCD symptoms completely. So Alyssa, same thing. We have an OCD episode. If you're still on here with us, send us a DM. My team is a whole lot better at sending out links than I am, finding it like live here. So we have a whole OCD article and episode. And then we have another article and episode about neurological stability. Love the questions. And I want to get you those answers in full. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, I did not do a live. This can't be my first live of the year. March 17th, where the leprechauns are dancing. Tomorrow's March 18th. My third kiddo, second baby girl, Elena, turns 14. What's up with that? She wants her first phone. Phones are a path right into sympathetic dominance and the neurological storm, so probably not going to happen, but we're going to give her a big hug. She's going to a Maddox Batson concert on Friday. Anybody know this Maddox Batson fella? Let's see how that is. All right, she's 14, so we'll roll with this little boy band, bro. Okay. Yay, Arkansas. I think I know who you're seeing then. Change my child's speech in just 3 weeks. That's fantastic. That's speeches. When it goes on fast, you're like, goodness gracious, that's so cool. So, Alyssa, you got it. We have a bunch of great resources. You need anything, we got you covered. All right. He's to every other week and growing. You know what? Take a look at that. That might be one of those things. If he's growing, little overtime answer here for you, Alyssa. Might need to almost kind of pretend. I said it earlier with another family. Might need to pretend like he's a new patient again and get a new set of scans and a new schedule. Growth spurts, as simple as it sounds, though, and puberty, they'll throw the nervous system not back to where it was, but they can stress it out and get it all grumpy again. And so what we try and do with our wellness patients at that stage of the game is we'll often just pretend like they're a new patient. Why do I say pretend? Because you get that deep, thorough evaluation again, and you start fresh, and then you make sure you miss nothing. You kind of dot the I's and cross the T's once again. So Alyssa, talk to your doc and have them do that. I do that all the time with our patients. It's easy to miss it. All of a sudden, the kid's growing, puberty, high school, all that other sort of stuff, or junior high. And hey, shout out Spectrum and Camouflage. What's up, dude? We got I think you're booked for the podcast. I'll follow up with Morgan today during our meeting and make sure that it is. Every time I see you in the morning too, I'm like, man, I got to get my workout in. I got to take my protein. Hey, it's winter. Winter is finishing up. So fluffy season. Nobody even knows that I'm fluffy right now. January through March, a little cold in the garage. Don't get as CrossFitty, but it's going to be, I'm looking at snow on the farm right now, but it's supposed to be 60 Friday. So listen, bro, I'm going to get back in the game. Okay. You just wait. Wait till you see June, Tony. It's going to be different. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you for jamming live. I think I got 2 podcasts out of that. That's not bad. Morgan, Chris, team, they're going to be happy. Happy little Irish day for them. Okay. I don't think anybody on the team is Irish, but we're not really into alcoholics. Just kidding. Those people are from Wisconsin. Love you guys.